Once I decided to make my exit and to denounce the teachings of this church, the first thing I went to was Revelation chapter 1, verse 13 to 15. And I quickly realized, which was always on my mind before, but I just never spoke out about it, or I ignored my thoughts against this teaching, is that the scripture never actually says that Jesus Christ had woolly hair. It never says that. What it does say is that his hair was white, like wool, which is all talking about the color of his hair, not the texture. The Israelite response to that is that wool comes in many colors, which is a terrible response to that, because wool does come in white. And even if his hair was woolly, that wouldn't prove that he is a black man. That doesn't prove that anyways, because you have some light skin or white people of all races that have this woolly textured hair. But that's besides the point, because it doesn't mention texture. It doesn't mention anything like that. I don't believe that any scripture that you pull out as some form of rebuttal stands in any way. I mean, you have to prove why I should believe in the Bible anyway, or why I should believe in that scripture. Just to pull a scripture and say, here, this is undeniable evidence, irrefutable evidence, it's not good enough to just pull a scripture as some type of undeniable proof. And this is one of the main problems that I see with all Israelites. They think that pulling a scripture, showing it to somebody, here you go, here's the scripture. How is that sufficient evidence anyways? How does that warrant belief? This is the problem. This is the mentality I had when I decided I can no longer subscribe to the Israelite belief and the Israelite doctrine, is that you have to decide what warrants belief. So to say that here's a scripture, this should warrant belief, this is not good enough. There should be another factor that corroborates with that scripture. Black Hebrew Israelites don't do that. They show you a scripture, they expect you to believe in that scripture the way that they believe in the scripture. You can't expect somebody to believe like you believe. So just pulling a scripture shouldn't warrant belief. It should be a little bit more than that. Revelation chapter 1, which supposedly talks about Jesus Christ being black, was quickly proven to be wrong. Revelation chapter 1, verse 14 through 15. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. So when it says his head and his hairs were white like wool, that's not talking about the texture of his hair. It's talking about the color of his hair, as white as snow. That part there, as white as snow, is just adding on to the part where it says his hair was white like wool, as white as snow. So it's just affirmation to tell you it's talking about color. Verse 15 now says, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace. So this is a scripture that they start talking about the color. This scripture is supposed to be talking about Jesus Christ in the spirit form, which is not supposed to be in a regular body color or anything like that. There's no skin color. Verse 14 tells you that his head and his hairs were white like wool. So his whole head was white. Not just his hair, but his whole head. And then when it goes down to the feet, it says that his feet were like brass, as if they burned. Burned, this is talking about present tense. Just like saying the fire burned, or the brass burned in the fireplace. That means that it's burning. If something burned in the fireplace, if you're talking about it present tense, you can still use burned. You've never heard that before? And this is the problem when they try to go back to the Old English, is that you know that these modern day, men don't speak Old English. So this becomes another issue with the Black Hebrew Israelites. They want to bring to you this Old English, Old King James version, when they themselves don't speak Old English. So they get confused instantly when it comes time to translate and explain to other people. But when you read this scripture in the Greek, you can see that it's present tense. It's saying that his feet looked like brass, as if it was burning. when you take brass and you burn it, while it's burning, it starts to glow. And that's exactly what was happening in the scripture. That's how he's describing it. Because again, this is speaking about Jesus Christ in the spiritual form. But, there's a few things that Israelites commonly get wrong. Like, for example, the scripture that says, oppression maketh a wise man mad. They would usually say that mad means angry. But when you look at the translation of the word mad from that Old English translation, which was done in 1611, which nobody speaks like that really anymore, mad is actually used as kind of like a debased form of like crazy, not really angry. That's the breakdown of that. That oppression can turn a wise man crazy. That's all it's saying. Black Hebrew Israelites constantly mistranslate that word mad. The Old English, that's how they spoke. You've gone mad. That's how they spoke. They still speak like that today. This is not talking about angry. So that's another scripture that Black Hebrew Israelites mistranslate because they don't know the Old English. And if you did your research about the Old English that came from Britain, you would see that they didn't use burned as past tense. They used burnt with a T. And that's how they regularly spoke. What you have now in your time, these modern days, is that Americans have taken the English and the past tense for burn is more commonly used as burned now. But at 1611, this was not so. So here's a good article that explains the difference between burnt and burned and how there's been a change in the usage of this word from the Old English in Great Britain to modern day English here in America. It's become more popular to use it with ED at the end. There's a chart that kind of explains how it's been changing, in Great Britain. Well, Great Britain's down here in America. You can see that in the 1800s, the word burnt was always used with a T more often, a lot more often, back in the 1800s. Same thing over here in America, showing you that the word burnt was used more in the 1800s and it's declined, and now it's burned with the ED at the end. It was more commonly used. So, when people try to interpret Revelation chapter 1, verse 15, they think this is past tense, but it's actually just trying to show you that his feet looked like they were glowing. What I started to see with the Black Hebrew Israelites is that a lot of them want to believe in these things. The men that first came to them with this doctrine came at them with this, you're better than anybody else in the world. It's this appeal, this emotional appeal. They always come at them with you're chosen by God. You're special. You're more special than anyone else in the world. It appeals to people that have probably never, felt good about themselves, that, have grown up in maybe households that didn't have any type of father figure or mother figure that can teach them and give them confidence. Now they're getting this in a place where they can constantly get it. They can constantly go back and they keep getting this assurance that, everything is going to be okay. And that's what religion does as a whole. It assures people that might not be too sure in life about what may happen at the end of the day or at the end of their life, and they need something to cope. And this religion helps them cope with whatever they're going through in their life. I remember seeing a video on YouTube that was actually an hour-long show that came out on BBC on Christmas Day. And it was titled "Who Wrote the Bible?" So when I sat back and watched that and I took my notes so I can go back later on and research everything that was coming out in the video, I realized that there's a lot of things wrong with the scriptures in itself. There's a lot of things wrong with this Bible in itself. So for me to just automatically take everything in the scriptures that's coming out as proof instantly, that was my first mistake, is doing that instead of going back and researching why I should believe in this in the first place. This is a common error that all Israelites make. Anytime you try to ask them for proof of anything, they go right to the Bible, as if this is already automatically some type of proof. This doesn't warrant anybody's belief, and it shouldn't warrant your belief right away until it can be corroborated somewhere else, or with another proof, another form of proof. So if you expect everybody to just believe in the Bible like you do, you're constantly going out there trying to teach people, you're going to be disappointed constantly, because you're going to see that people don't believe like you do. So the reason why I'm not a Hebrew Israelite anymore, I don't think there's sufficient evidence to warrant my belief in a lot of the things that the Hebrew Israelites profess. One of the first things I also went back and started researching was the 12 tribe sign. And I quickly realized that there is a big issue with the 12 tribe sign, because even in the scripture itself, in the Bible itself, there's nothing to tell you where these tribes are today. So this is another big issue. I mean, the 12 tribe sign alleges that the North American Indians and the Seminole Indians are separate from each other. When you go into actual evidence and history, you find that the Seminole Indians are North American Indians, and that they came from all different parts of North America. They were runaways. That's what the word Seminole means, runaways. And they ran to Florida. Why do you separate the Gadites from the Reubenites, or the North American Indians from the Seminole Indians, when they're actually the same people? They're actually the same. They came from the same stock. It's just as time went by, you had some of them that you would call Gad that ran off to Florida. How does that change their genetic makeup and make them a different tribe now? It doesn't. That's not how it works. So that was the first thing that I learned that was completely wrong about this 12 tribes breakdown. And then I started doing my research on DNA. I myself did my own DNA, and realized that what I am is a mix of a lot of different nationalities or ethnicities. I'm a mix of European, I'm a mix of Taino Indian, I'm a mix of African. I have all of this in my DNA, so who's to say which one came from my father's seed, or, because again, this is what the Hebrew Israelites believe. And this is another belief that they hold that has no proof, there's no evidence anywhere that you can find that there is a father's seed. I mean, what is that? What does that even mean, the father's seed? How can you prove to someone that, first of all, there is a seed and that the father carries it, and that this determines who you are and who you're going to be, who that child is going to be? You can't find this anywhere in science. There's no way you can look this up. All you have is this Bible that they claim to go to and find irrefutable evidence for their beliefs. There becomes a problem now with their doctrine, because now you have all these Native American Indians, which make up 9 out of the 12 tribes. There's Native Americans and Hispanics. And when you go into the history of these tribes, especially Dominican Republic, which is where I'm from, you have a lot of rape that went on. So that's why I saw in my DNA that the Taino Indian DNA was very little in my DNA. It was only 12%, which is not much. That's like the minimum that you can see any type of traits in your phenotype. You can't even really see it when it's under 10%. And when I started looking at other people from Dominican Republic and their videos on their DNA and their results, I saw the same thing that I was seeing in mine, is that they have a majority European in their blood, and that they have very little Taino Indian in their blood. But yet the Hebrew Israelites want to make you believe that you are a Taino Indian, and that it all goes by the father's seed, but they can't prove to you that your father's 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 seed goes back to that Taino Indian. They can't even prove that to you. They expect you to believe these things based on faith. And that's when it all came down to, with me, I realized that these faith-based beliefs is very problematic. And this is why you have people in all these different millions types of religions out here based on faith. It's not based on any evidence. It's all based on how you can believe. How far can you go to believe on something based on faith? And it seems in every church, the more faith that you have, the more props that you get, the more that you get put up on a pedestal, because look, this person has such great faith. They believe something even contrary to the evidence. That's irrational, and I refuse to continue to believe in this way, because it led me into this cult that, I've wasted a lot of time and money and resources in, and now I had to come back and deprogram myself. Once I started deprogramming myself, I realized that everything I took in that church was based on faith, and I had no good reason to believe in these things any longer. I started studying critical thinking, deductive reasoning. I started studying inductive reasoning, so I can make sure that in the future, the next time I come to any conclusions about what I believe, that I've gotten through the best steps that I could to weed out any bad reasoning, so that I can say I come to this conclusion based off good reasoning. I have good reason to believe that this is probably true. And that's what it all comes down to. This is why I'm no longer a Hebrew Israelite. They failed to prove to me that I am a Hebrew Israelite. Now, if anybody else has any better evidence, I'm waiting to hear that. I'm always open to hear that. I'm open to having my mind changed. This is a problem that you see with a lot of Hebrew Israelites, especially the ones that operate more like a cult, like the IUIC and ICGJC, GMS, and ISUPK. They're not open to conversation. Well, I take that back with ISUPK, because they were actually open to debates with Polite. I've seen those debates, and they got humiliated. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be open to that any longer, but at least they were open to that initially. And this is why I believe that Tazadakit doesn't go out there and debates with different people to try to show that they have the truth and try to show that they have some ultimate, supreme knowledge. It's because he's afraid of being shown to be a liar, and of his doctrine being shown to be just fallacious. So you see that a lot of these black Hebrew Israelite organizations, they don't go out there and debate. They don't take the time to go over the scriptures with somebody that maybe opposes what they believe. So especially when you have someone that once believed the church and then they leave, they cut them off and they shun them. So now the people that are still in the church don't hear anything that this ex-believer has to say about why they don't believe anymore. And that's called information control. This is how cults operate. This is how they keep certain information from even being heard. So you don't even have to process that logically in your mind. You just keep going. That there's a saying that ignorance is bliss, and this is what you have in the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ. And these other cults, they are very ignorant to any outside beliefs and why they believe. They always straw man what other people believe, which is a straw man argument. You can look that up. They don't really understand what the opposing party believes. So they make up in their mind what they think that this opposing party believes in order to make them look, silly and defeat them easily. It's called a straw man argument. They constantly do that. So to them, it doesn't matter what this opposing party believes. They already believe that they have the truth, right? They've already put themselves in this box. And now they reverse everything on you, and you have to prove them wrong, as if what they believe has already been proven right. So that's a big problem when it comes to joining one of these cults, is that you're putting yourself in a box and you close yourself off from any opposing conversations. So how do you expect to grow in wisdom if you're closing yourself off from people that have opposing beliefs? You're never going to understand why any other people that don't believe what you believe feel the way that they do. You're never going to understand that, and they don't even really care to understand that. It doesn't matter to them. All they care about is keeping themselves in this belief and keeping themselves in this box. But I feel that I do have a better advantage to talk about this Israelite belief, because I was once a believer. I was once in this box where I was closed off to everything else, and I admitted my wrong, I admitted my faults, and I've come out of this box, and now I can think outside the box, and I remember what it's like to be inside the box, and I can understand. I'm very empathetic towards these current believers, because I was there. I was once in that box that they have put themselves in. So I understand why they believe the way they do and why they think the way they do. It makes sense to me, because I was once there. I understand it. Even though now that I'm out, it doesn't make sense to me. I understand why I was wrong. But I understand the mistakes that they have made and why they've come to the conclusions that they've made. It's all based on bad reasoning. That's what it all comes down to. So in the end, I was shown by doing my research that there's just many things in the Bible that we shouldn't just believe and take automatically as the truth. These things have to be researched first. Noah's Ark was one of the main things that proved to me that there was many things wrong with the Bible. Sennacherib's prism was or is a actual artifact that people can look up today to show you that it's completely wrong, that the story in 2 Kings chapter 20, when it talks about Sennacherib coming from Assyria, it shows you that the story that was put in the Bible completely left out certain things and added other things that Sennacherib did not put in his prism. There's a conflict there. So if you automatically believe everything that's in the Bible, there's a problem now, because you've closed yourself off from actually going through the process of rationalizing, of reasoning, and coming to a rational conclusion. You just automatically come to a conclusion first, and then you try to work your way backwards into why you came to the conclusion, and you use fallacies like the reversal of burden of proof when you've come to the conclusion before analyzing anything. Now you want people to prove that the conclusion that you came to was wrong, even though you don't have evidence for it being true. And you make up all these fallacies just to remain in your little box. And this is wrong. This is backwards. This is not the right way of thinking. I'm going to be making more videos about the Bible and what I found that was wrong in the Bible. I want to get more in depth into that. But I wanted to just focus on why I'm not a Hebrew Israelite any longer. I wanted to get that out of the way, because I know a lot of people probably wondering what I believe. I'm just here to tell you what I don't believe and what I used to believe. I used to believe in the Black Hebrew Israelite doctrines. I do not believe in it anymore. I understand why some people could still believe in the Hebrew Israelite doctrine and not be in the ICGJC. I can understand how you can make that distinction, because you don't have to believe in Tazadakia to believe that you're a Black Hebrew Israelite. Those two beliefs are not exclusively mutual. I immediately came to the conclusion that Tazadakia is not sent from God. That was one of the first things I clearly saw. And then I worked my way back and went to the doctrines and why I started believing that I am an Israelite. And I started to deprogram myself based upon logic and reasoning, because I really had no good reason to believe in the first place. I also want to let you guys know I've been putting more information in the description boxes on my past videos, so you guys can go back and get more information, references of, to things that I've mentioned in my videos. And I want you guys to subscribe to my videos, like my videos, share my videos, give your opinion of my videos in the comment section. I definitely value everybody's opinion and everybody's feedback. I want to hear what everybody has to say. And become a Patreon. I have a link on the bottom of my videos. If you support what I do, you can become a Patreon, show your support to me. You'll see that link in the description box. So this is San Miguel, and I'll be back soon. And then I just wanted to throw this out there also, which It's just laziness and part of the Israelites when it comes to breaking down the scriptures, because in Genesis chapter 49, when it talks about the tribe of Benjamin, it says, Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. They somehow translate this to mean that they're going to be howling and screaming and singing reggae music, and that the Benjamites are the West Indians and the Jamaicans. And I don't know how they get that out of the scripture, because the word raven simply means to devour. It doesn't mean to howl or to sing reggae music. So the ICGJC, ISUPK, IUIC, GOCC, GMS, all these damn little alphabet camps, they all teach the same crap.